on that trajectory. So we think, all right, put a pair of glasses on, that will solve the problem. But actually, there's a lot more to what's happening in myopia and what the risks of being short-sighted are. What happens with myopia is that as you grow, your eyeball grows, but it grows at a slightly faster rate than it should do. So if you look on the image that I've got here, where the light is focused in the right place, if you look on this one, where the eyeball is a little bit larger, the light is focused a little bit earlier, so that by the time it reaches where it needs to go, it'll be a bit out of focus. So that's when you need a pair of glasses. And then, as you become more short-sighted, your eyeball grows at a faster rate. Now, having a larger eyeball then causes risks of other problems. So if your eyeball is slightly bigger, your retina has to be stretched a little bit more to fit into a larger eyeball. When you start stretching the retina a little bit, it makes it more fragile, more prone to having damage, more prone to tears, or if it's detaching, or the other complications. So the risk of glaucoma or the risk of cataract can increase as well for us who are short-sighted. And each change in the prescription, each diopter difference, that's when you put the numbers of the prescription, if you add a number, one diopter, your risk of a serious complication goes up by 40%. So that's quite significant. So even from the small numbers, it goes higher and higher. So these are things that we have to be aware of as adults who are short-sighted. So, so we know what happened. We know that it's an issue. We know there's more of that. So why are we getting? Firstly, where does the myopia come from in the first place, and why are we getting more of it? So first thing, genetic. So if you've got kids here and you're short-sighted, your children are 3 times more likely to be short-sighted. And if both parents are short-sighted, then that goes up to 6 times. So each generation gets more and more short-sighted. So that's one really major factor. Then you've got what we're all doing now. I'll talk a bit more about outdoor time in a moment, but kids aren't spending the time outdoors as they used to. They're spending a lot more time indoors. And then that has a massive factor on affecting the increase in short-sightedness and the increase in people's eyes changing. Often the lack of sleep can make a difference. And then we've got optical factors. So once you become short-sighted, our eyes try to compensate. The problem is that we get the way that the eye works, the only way it can try and compensate for it is by becoming more short-sighted. So once you become short-sighted, it's just a vicious cycle. It just gets worse and worse as you grow during that period of time. So it could be from when you become short-sighted to about the age of 18 to 21, your eyes can just get worse and worse. I'm just talking a little bit more about the habits of children. So compared to when we were kids, children are spending half as much time outdoors. So and every generation that seems to be worse. So when you're indoors, you're not getting enough sunlight. Sunlight has a protective effect. Sunlight slows down the rate of change. It reduces the rate that short-sightedness starts. And when you're indoors, you're kind of focused often on a closer environment. And that closer environment often makes things worse as well. Children now are spending 7 hours a day on the screen, which wasn't happening before. And all of those factors mean that they're focusing very close, and all of that makes things worse with short-sightedness. The lockdown had a massive effect. Children were stuck at home. They were fixed on the screen all day long, and lots of kids got much worse during that period of time. Thankfully, we're not seeing as much as before, but a lot of the children's habits are very different to what they used to be. So now that we know about myopia, there are things that we all should be doing, really, for helping our kids, helping to try and slow down the rate of change. So firstly, as I said before, increase the outdoor time. Children should be spending at least 2 hours outdoors every day. As I said, the sunlight makes a massive difference. It slows down the rate of change. But also, they're moving around, they're doing physical activities. Kids aren't doing physical activities as much as they used to. So that's going to be a really big thing. The other thing is reading and close up. So I have some tips that I always give to kids, and it makes a really big difference. So one of the things, it's called the elbow rule. So it's very easy to practice. Basically, you put your fist on your chin, and where your elbow is, the book. But you can all do this now. So it's very easy. The children to do it by themselves. The book should not be closer than where your elbow is. So that's the distance a child should be holding a book. And I'll see them often. They'll be waiting for me. In that 5 minutes it takes for me to call them into the consulting room. They're in a book. They're literally holding them out there. Or they'll start here, and they'll say they're doing it there. By the time they finish, they're up here. And that over a period of time, anything closer than 20 centimeters for a prolonged period of time would increase the risk of short-sightedness for kids. And then taking breaks. Some of them will just be reading for hours and hours. So what I often do, I'll get them to put a bookmark 3 or 4 pages ahead. So when they get to the bookmark, they know that's the time for a little break. They're going to focus on something far away, or put the book down for a few minutes, and then they can continue reading. It's reading so important. You don't want to stop the kids from reading, but you've got to manage that time. And also, a lot of kids, as you can see in the picture there, a lot of kids read in the dark, they'll read in bed. So just making sure they have lots of good lighting. That has a massive impact on that. So now, one of the most exciting things, and this is what I've been doing over the last 7 or 8 years, there's lots of great options that actually slow down the rate of change. So that when kids first become short-sighted, if we start doing some of those things, as well as all of the lifestyle things and the outdoor time, there's lots of optical interventions that we can do. And they all make a huge difference to slow down the rate of change. So firstly, contact lenses for kids. So a lot of parents will say to me, oh, they're too young for contact lenses, but I've got kids from the age of 4 onwards who wear contact lenses very, very successfully. And these are special designs, and what contact lenses do, they will slow down the rate of change. So while the kids are wearing them, their eyes aren't going to progress at such a fast level. So we've got daily lenses, so they wear them in the daytime, like traditional lenses. And what I find works much better as well, overnight lenses, which are called Ortho K, as we'll talk about in a moment. But they work brilliantly. The children put the lens in at night before they go to bed. They wake up in the morning and they take them out and they can see clearly the whole day, and they don't have to wear anything during the day. It almost works like magic. It slows down the rate of change as well, and they don't have the problems with dryness with contact lenses, or having issues with contact lens moving, doing sports or doing swimming, those kind of activities. So as long as your prescription works within that range, that's a great option. And we do have special glasses now as well, which have similar kind of technology, that's similar kind of optics that help slow down the rate of change. So as soon as kids become short-sighted, ideally they should be looking at some of these options and to try and slow down the rate of change so that their eyes don't get as short-sighted as they would be. We do have another option called atropine, which is a type of drop that can be used, which also slows down the rate of change. It's used in most of the rest of the world. The UK still is working on the licensing. They want to show that it's going to work for our population. So there's studies coming out, I think within the next couple of years, that will also be an additional option
that we'll have for kids.
So just talking about, so this is one of the kids that I saw many years ago. His name was Oliver. You can see him there as a 7-year-old learning how to put his contact lenses in. So he came to see me at the age of 7, and his prescription was -3 in both eyes. His parents were obviously concerned. Neither of them were short-sighted, so they didn't know why he'd become short-sighted. And they heard that was something that I was specialising in. So they brought him along. I fitted him with contact lenses. And you can see on the kind of graph there, well, I'll bring it up on the next one. Yeah, so he was, at the age of 7, he was predicted to have a prescription of 1150 when he was an adult. So we've got from where he was almost off the scale of what the prescription should have been at that age. And then after 7 years, basically, his rate of change changed significantly. So it could have easily been over -8 as an adult, but at the age of 14 it's -4, and it's not going to, it'll change but much slower. Okay, so bit about screen time. So who here uses a phone too much? Every single person, right? So we're all addicted to using our phones, right? So no wonder we're worried about our kids getting addicted. They see us using the devices too much, and so it is an issue. There's lots of other issues, not just eyes, but eyes. As we're talking about eyes, that's what we'll have a look at. So technology is here to stay. It's not going away, right? No one's going to get rid of their phones, and if anything, the technology is going to get much worse much more over the next few years. If you imagine what it was like 10 years ago, imagine what it's like now. What's it going to be in the next 10 years? We're going to be using devices even more. It's a question of learning good habits, learning how to manage it. Technology has advantages. You know, we've got people watching me at home, but the weather's freezing cold outside, so you're able to see me from wherever you are in the world. So we do need this technology. It makes learning for everybody easier. Makes learning for kids easier. We've got all the knowledge of the world in the palm of our hands, just at our fingertips. You know, when we have to go to a library, you have to get the encyclopedia out to find this information. You've got it all here now. So technology is a real enabler of help. You know, it helps so many areas. It helps so much for learning for kids when they're in school. It helps for adults. It helps make our jobs work well. But obviously we've got disadvantages that come along at the same time. It's known to affect the attention of adults and for kids as well. And for some kids, when they're learning how to manage their attention, how to keep their attention working on things, it can disrupt that process. As I said before, there's risk of addiction. And these phones, unfortunately, the software that's on there is designed to keep us using it more. It's designed to be addictive. So there's issues there. But for very, very young kids, it affects how they learn how to use their body, particularly their fingers. Kids who are using it at a very young age sometimes don't have the right manual dexterity. And that's already been established in studies that their kids are finding it harder to tie a shoelace or how to hold a pen because they're not developing, they're not holding things in their hand, they're not playing with toys, and they're not playing with things that they would normally build upon their development. It definitely affects sleep. So if you use a device late at night, the blue light from the screen keeps you awake more, so you don't get as good quality sleep. And as we've been talking about myopia, when you're holding something very close to you for a long period of time, it's as a child, it's more likely to make you myopic. So some of the advice that I give, taking breaks. That's really, really important. The most important thing is getting away from the screen, and you've got to replace it with something else. There's something called the 20-20-20 rule, which is every 20 minutes, you should look at something 20 feet away or more for at least 20 seconds. And that just gives your eyes a break. You're not focusing at that distance. You know, if you imagine you go for a very long run, your legs will get tired. But if you take a break, relax them, they'll always go back to normal. So it's kind of taking those breaks. Really, we should cut away our devices an hour before going to bed, so that gives our brain a chance to unwind. Even what you're using on the screen can be quite stimulating as well. So having that time away improves your relaxation before preparing you to go to bed. Now, for age groups, we've got to be careful about what age group. So if a child is under 2 or 3, really they should be doing very, very minimal screen time. And some of the advice from a lot of the organisations say that you shouldn't use it at all under those ages. As we go from kind of maybe 4 or 5 years old, a limited amount of screen use can be actually helpful. You know, if it's half an hour a day doing something educational, might actually be better than not using it for those things, because you're actually learning. So you do have to teach kids how to use the devices, but in a controlled way. And then as they get a bit older, then having a bit more time, but again using it in the right way. But they have to be able to be taught good habits, how to use the device, know when to put it down, when to use it. And if you supplement it with lots of other activities, games, kids playing sport is a really good one. If they're doing a sport outside of school, then that automatically will take them away from the device. It will get them outdoors. It will get them doing things that's physical. It's great for their body. They can be interacting with people, and they can be doing things and building good habits that they can use as an adult. So a lot of, if you're playing badminton or playing any kind of sports as an adult, they can continue and they keep their body working well as well. So some of the important things to take away from the talk today. So firstly, do make sure that your child has a regular eye test. Children, at least once a year, they should be having a test. Many kids become short-sighted or have other issues. They don't know that they have an issue because, as far as they're concerned, they can see everything okay. As I said before, get outdoors. It's really important. In countries like Norway, have a lower rate of short-sightedness. Now, Norway is the weather like it is today, freezing cold, but kids wrap up and they get outside. And the incidence is much lower for short-sightedness. Make sure that they have really good habits for the close-up work, for taking breaks, holding books at the right distance. And then if your child does become short-sighted, speak to someone who knows about it, and then we can try and do things to slow down the rate of change. And obviously we've got a whole load of adults in the room here, so you should all be making sure that you have an eye test every 2 years. Some of the important things to look out for when you're short-sighted, as I was saying before, there's a higher risk of having tears and retinal detachments. If ever you see any new floaters, now people know what floaters are. So it's when you see something moving around in your vision, it's normal. About 80–90% of the population have this. But if you suddenly see a new one that you've never seen before, it needs to be investigated the same day. So you need to contact someone. If you see a funny shadow or funny patch in your vision, that also needs to be investigated the same day, or any flashing lights or floaters. And like I said, same with the kids, your own habits for using devices, using close-up, you need to look at taking breaks, getting away from the phone and doing other things, getting away from the computer as well. So that's the main thing I want to say. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We want to do questions now. Or we want to yeah.
I'm going to introduce our case study for today. That is Kaya Maria. She's 13 years old and has been wearing orthocare lenses since the age of 10. She's in year 9 student at London North Collegiate. Yeah.
Hello everyone. My name is Kaya and I'm 13 years old. I began wearing orthocare lenses every night in August 2021 as a way to slow the progression of my near-sightedness. This means that I could see objects that are near clear, but had difficulty seeing objects that are further away. Before starting orthocare lenses, my prescription was increasing at a rapid rate. In August 2021, it was at -2.75 in my right eye and -3.25 in my left eye. My optometrist recommended this treatment as an effective solution. Orthocare involves wearing specially designed rigid gas permeable lenses overnight to gently reshape the cornea, allowing me to have clear vision during the day without glasses or contacts. My early challenges were inserting and removing lenses, as I had never worn lenses before. Learning to handle the lenses is a bit intimidating. It required patience and practice to build confidence. I had a few mishaps where I lost a pair of lenses early on, only to find it was stuck in my pajamas. One lens went down the sink drain, and once I put a chip lens in my eye, which was a bit frightening as I got an infection. With support from my optician and my family, I learned how to handle these situations calmly. I had to develop a consistent nighttime routine to ensure I wore the lenses every night for the best results. There are times when I'm away on a school trip or a night flight and I don't wear my lenses in the night. I get away being able to see the window, But towards the end of that day, my vision goes a bit blurry. Some people can get away not wearing the ortho-K lenses for a couple of nights, but I have only ever skipped one night. Using ortho-K lenses has made such a big difference in my life. I can see perfectly during the day without wearing glasses or contacts. This makes everyday activities like school and sports much easier. Swimming has become a much more enjoyable activity of mine, as I can actually see things further than the pool and the ocean. I can wear sunglasses without worrying about prescription lenses. My prescription has stabilized significantly since I started wearing ortho-K lenses. My last check showed my right eye was planning, which means no correction is needed, and left eye was -0.50. I visit my optometrist regularly to ensure my eyes are healthy and that the lenses are working as intended. I change my lenses every 6 months. I've learned to properly clean and store my lenses to keep my eyes healthy and avoid infections. It's a daily nighttime routine that I have to follow and clean my lenses. This experience has taught me several important skills and values. Wearing ortho-K lenses requires sticking to a strict routine. I've become more disciplined about taking care of my eyes and lenses. Overcoming initial challenges, like learning how to insert the lenses, taught me to stay calm, be patient, and persistent. I'm now going to give advice for other people considering ortho-K. Don't be afraid of the initial adjustment. It may feel strange or uncomfortable at first, but it gets easier with practice. Make sure you follow your routine. Consistency is key to getting the best results and maintaining clear vision. Ask for help when needed. Don't hesitate to talk to your optometrist if you experience issues like discomfort or if you have questions about lens care. I plan to continue using ortho-K lenses to maintain clear vision and slow myopia progression. I'm grateful for how this treatment has improved my quality of life, and I hope my experience can help others understand the benefits and challenges of ortho-K. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kaya. I identify with that thing about losing lenses because I've done that many times. And Pamela, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with everyone here. We're going to open up the floor for questions. So if people have got questions, can you put your hand up and just ask your question of both Pam and Kaya? Are you happy to answer questions? Yeah? Keep the mic.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. One, the ortho-K lenses, has any studies or anything been done with adults to see if something like that will change the eyes?
So for adults, you can use it as a vision correction. It's a bit harder for adults after about 40. Our corneas are a bit less flexible. So it takes a little bit longer for it to take effect. It won't, if you stop wearing them, your vision will go back to normal. So it's just, for adults, it's just an alternative correction.
And for children, do you actually do like eye exercise regimens and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
if they need it, yeah. So as a routine, I would have a look and see. So what we're finding actually, some kids who are short-sighted have their eyes don't focus quite as well. And that could be a factor as to why they become short-sighted or why it's getting worse. So I would normally check that first and then give them exercise if they
Okay, can I ask you a question? When did you first realize that you had these issues with your eyes?
So I got glasses when I was in year 4, so 5 years ago, so when I was 8 years old. And my parents don't have glasses, but we thought it was like my dad's sister because her eyesight was like a bit advanced. And I was quite young when I first got glasses, and I was like, my parents were just like following me up. And then because my eyesight level was really like high, and it was like -3, -4, they thought that would get it checked. So my optometrist referred me to the opticians that I have now, who deal with like the myopia, and they figured that I had myopia.
So would you say you had the issues because of your parents? Anything else that you were doing, or was it just?
It couldn't. I think it was like my screen time because it was like lockdown when I had like we were online a lot like during my lessons and school, and I think it was just like as said before, like close like reading like close to like your eyes and like having the phone or like iPad really close to your eyes.
And so Lauren, before you come in, she's on these lenses. How long does she carry on with this?
So with lenses, the risk. So when you become short-sighted, you're short-sighted for life, right? So you're going to need some correction.
It's not
Sorry,
it's not reversible.
you can't go back the other way. No, it only goes one way.
Okay.
But up until about 18 to 21, there's a potential of it getting worse. So up until 18, 21, then it's really important to do that, to do some option,
Right.
to try and slow down the rate of change. Depends. 18 depends on what you're doing, particularly at university. If you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to spend a lot of time reading. So lawyers, on average, will progress a bit during university time. Less academic subjects may not change as much. And then after 21, we leave it up to the kids what they want to do. So some kids will continue wearing it because actually it's a really convenient way of correcting the vision.
Right.
Some kids may want to change to other options as well. When they reach 25, they might want laser treatment or some other option like that.
Oh, so there are other treatments.
So you've got after about 25, you've got laser option, which will correct short-sightedness. So then you've got options like that.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry, one more question. You recommended that when kids are reading books,
Yeah.
they put a bookmark after every few pages.
Yeah.
I find these days there's a lot of reading done on this computer.
Yeah, that's right. So setting timers, there are some apps I think that will set a timer and will warn you or remind you when you've been doing something for a particular time. So I think they have to find other solutions for that.
Right. And your very first slides, you showed the normal eye and the elongated eye.
Yeah.
So is it,
So there's a few factors that actually causes that. So normally for kids, I actually use the measurement of the eyeball length as a way of checking how fast their eyes are changing.
Right.
So what happens is the eye can only grow, right? So what it does when it becomes short-sighted, there seems to be an optical signal. The brain sees the eye sees that it's out of focus, and it tries to compensate. But all it can do is grow a bit bigger, and then make you more short-sighted. So the peripheral part of your eye, the focus changes on that side when you become short-sighted. So it's that peripheral part of inside the eye that seems to be sending the signal.
Thank you.
You mentioned that for people that are very heavily short-sighted, they're at bigger risk of coma and cataracts and so forth.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for what people can do when they're already at risk? And have high, short-sightedness to prevent or to mitigate these, other
those other
eye
changes. So first, you're having regular eye tests.
Sure.
At least every couple of years. Make sure that when they actually do the test, they're able to check the retina as far out as possible. So that's really important because sometimes you can pick things up in the very early stages. And the other thing is just being aware of those signs that I mentioned before, changing floaters, seeing any of those things.
But anything it can do, like
Yourself,
exercises, anything?
there's not really in terms of exercises that will work for that. I think avoid doing
Vitamins or anything?
yeah, we don't know whether but vitamins do help the blood circulation and help the eye itself. We don't know if it's going to reduce the risk of these happening, but there's no harm in having good nutrition. Things that like blueberries, kale, that kind of stuff. Anything with lots of colour to it is very good because that's the pigment that you find inside the eye. That has a very protective effect on the retina. There are some supplements that increase the amount of pigment at the back of the eye, which do reduce the risk of things later on. We don't know if it's going to how much it will reduce some of the myopia changes, but it will reduce some of the changes as well. Avoid bungee jumping or really high impact activities because that could put you at a bit of a risk. But other things, there's nothing else specific that way that will reduce the risk in the future.
So another question, not directly related to myopia, but in conjunction with it. So when I was a little kid, I had slight myopia, but I have congenital nystagmus.
Right.
It's not severe. You know, I still have 20/40 vision, so it's not bad. It hasn't gotten worse over time, which is a good thing. But you get cases like that, and what do you do?
Contact lenses for nystagmus sometimes dampens the movements. So for some people, they get less movements. We get less people with nystagmus and short-sightedness together. We do have a few. With nystagmus, you're more likely to have a lot of astigmatism or to be long-sighted. And then we have a look at what else is going on there at the same time. So you just kind of need a regular retina. That, then it's a bit more risky procedure. But yeah, all treatments, what they do is they just slow down the rate of change. When you, as an adult, the prescription is not as strong as it would have been otherwise, and you won't have as much eyeball work. Well, it seems to be better than it used to be. When I was like 25, I think it was riskier. So as you can see, I'm still wearing my glasses, but I think if I was 25 now, I'd probably consider it.
Same question about the laser. Children 18 to 21, if it gets worse.
Yeah, so there's a potential of it still getting worse up until about 21.
And laser is one suggestion. How many laser treatments can you have? Is it just once? Or
it's normally just once. So it's a laser
normally once.
Usually once, yeah. Because what happens, normally it needs to be stable for about 2 years before they'll do the laser. So that's why normally they have 25 as a cutoff, making sure that there's no change for those 2 years. And what for the laser treatment, they actually have to remove a little thinner layer of the cornea. So, and the more stronger the prescription is, the more of the cornea they have to remove. So if they've removed a little bit, then it might be a little bit left if they need to do any further correction. But sometimes there might not be enough, so it depends on the individual if there's enough cornea to do another procedure.
Because you suggested 2025, you can get then they go back to glasses.
Yeah, then they may go back to glasses. Yeah.
Okay. And what about those lenses, those permanent lenses that are getting put now?
The ones for the implant.
Yeah,
I mean,
implants.
if you have a cataract and you have a cataract operation, then they will put one in automatically, which would correct your vision. If you're very short-sighted, some surgeons might replace the lens and put the implant lens in. It's more risky surgery, but for some of the stronger prescriptions, it may be one of the only things that they can do.
Just one more question for Kaya.
Okay.
Kaya. I've now hidden my iPad for my daughter. She's 11, and now she's on the fun. How do I get her off the fun?
It's a really hard question to answer, in my opinion, because like our generation is like our life is most of it is on our phone, but there are definitely things that you can do. So like set screen time, but also there's a thing if they have an app on the phone, it's called like Stream the Strainer. So it's on settings. So if you're holding your phone close to your eye, it will tell you, and it'll just like shut your phone off. So you have to like move it like further away, and then it'll be fine. When I first like got it, when I did the update, it was like really annoying. But like I can see like how like it's gonna affect.
Thank you. I'm still struggling. I don't know what, unless someone tells her, but she doesn't listen.
I don't think like any of us will listen. Like it's been hard because most of our like day-to-day life is like consisting of on our phone. But yeah,
Thank you.
Maybe having a suggestion of outdoor activities.
To take that every night. She has activities, but it's the phone I'm having now the issue. The iPad's gone.
Switch off the internet. You have a time, like, your Wi-Fi, put it on a timer in the evening after a certain time. You can get these family link or anything where they're connected. So yeah, you can have a family link, which is a Google thing or Apple thing, where you can even select which device you want to disconnect.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So thanks a lot. I grown up thinking about myopia, I'm highly short-sighted and so reduced recently. Both my kids, they've had it much younger age. I had my son, who's got myopia, we already did his lenses. Question is, when would we like that we just started a year ago he started off with 2.7. One of the eyes is much higher. Whenever we first checked it, and that's when we realized a few months ago. And then it's regretted when you think the lenses, like he's 9 now, and we've considered it, but I don't know whether it's right.
I mean, you're talking about having the contact lenses.
Yeah. What Pierre mentioned, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the youngest I've got was 5 wearing quite successfully. So as soon as they're ready, I mean, even sometimes if they, as long as they can tolerate it, and some kids I might teach them how to tolerate the lenses first a little bit, get them prepared, and then you know, nine I would expect them to manage it by themselves.
Yeah, and I think yours, like, I don't know how we remember it. So I'll make him listen to it. That's a really good story, kind of, rather than us coming from someone like Kira.
Yeah.
My daughter, she's actually long-sighted and she's got astigmatism. So she's got the corrective lenses, but is there kind of any other solution for it?
As in she's got regular contact lenses.
No, it's just that she wears the
Yeah, long-sighted, there isn't anything really from that point of view at the moment. Long-sightedness, it's a funny one, it works slightly differently to short-sightedness.
Yeah, and first she's got astigmatism.
Yeah, then astigmatism as well. I mean, it's kind of a different profile. She's probably a different person compared to the other.
Yeah,
as well. So sometimes it may have an impact on one or the other. But contact lenses may be an option if she wants to wear, quite a few kids who are long-sighted astigmatism. And if if they're doing sports or physical activities.
So I'm here in mum, and obviously the myopia treatment is available privately, but not by the NHS. But it's such a big thing growing, especially for the COVID children, as you say, squeeze that availability. So I'm not sure the answer, but is there a reason why it's not available?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. There's lots of things going on with the NHS at the moment. Particularly, their main focus is really treating people at the point of need. So that's going to always come before everything else. So this is kind of becomes more of a correction as opposed to a treatment. So it's a treatment as opposed to a correction. So there's some provision towards glasses, which would just be correction for now. Preventative medicine is different in terms of the NHS, and it's very difficult to get things working. You know, there's a problem with diabetes, problem with obesity. All of those things need to be managed at an early stage, so that we don't get the problem. So there's so many things to try to work on at the same time. And so the problem with myopia management, it takes investment, it takes skill and learning, and there's more cost involved in doing some of those treatment options. And the NHS doesn't know where to put all the projects. It's very difficult.
So the parents, well, the age 10, and it has carried in 21.
The important thing to remember is that it's cheaper than not doing it.
Yeah.
So from the way that it would happen to the eyes in the future, if you slow down the rate of change, it will be the best of it.
And if we did go down that route, then just I'm trying to get knowledge correct. So her short sighted would have just increased the number.
Yeah.
Is there a point where you need to? How far can it go before it
Well, I mean, from a number point of view, so how old were you? 10, you're about 3. So that would probably be somewhere between 6 and 8, maybe. But
her just for the advantage, it increased very rapidly, very soon. So until the age of 8, quite hard. Yeah, and then suddenly it was like every couple of months.
it's great. So that's why I always look at the eyeball when I see kids, so I can see what's happening.
Just a question for Kea. How do you manage the lenses when you swim or when you go for a swim?
So one of the main reasons I did this was for swimming. So when I was younger, I couldn't see what I was doing. So now if I was to go swimming after wearing the lenses at night, I'd be able to see everything, and it's completely fine. It doesn't affect the quality of water, it doesn't affect your eyes, even if you're not wearing goggles. It doesn't irritate them at night when you have to put them in. It's completely fine.
So she sleeps with
She only wears the lens at night time. She doesn't wear anything during the day. That's why it's perfect for that.
Sorry, I missed it. Yeah.
So initially, when she did get that little scratch, probably at night, there was some movement from action of transport that we did that followed, and that's when she didn't realize it was a slight scratch, and then she put it at night, and the next morning, red eyes, and
So my question, and it's really around working people and people who spend a lot of time on screens, practically the whole day. And obviously in the workplace, there are regulations or rules that make people take breaks or meant to take breaks.
Right.
So do you see, or is there any legislation that kind of will make those breaks?
I think it's been very difficult to add legislation for employers. I think it can be a guideline. I mean, even protective wear, for example, if you're working on a building site, the employer has to provide something, but actually the user, it's up to the user to use it, right? So even though the employer doesn't everything they can, the employee has to take responsibility as well. Most of them know that if they're using it for too long, that they should be able to kind of find ways to take away to it might be something to force themselves.
Yeah, I mean, in my team, I'm always telling people, like, go, get up, go and have a stretch, because it's not just the eyes.
It's how we're sitting and what it does.
Posture is more, it's more serious. Actually, some of the things with RSI or head and neck things, eye things on the whole, get away from it. But some of the things head and neck, you can actually make long term.
Yeah, I was talking to our occupational health team. The guys are going to suggest that we get more standing desks. So you're sitting, you're not working sitting, but standing. And also it's going to like do a training session. Must people get around, take a break. Because that continuous screen time, definitely they have seen like people and their eyes deteriorating.
Yeah, so sometimes for adults, the eyes don't always deteriorate a huge amount. They can, but it's all those other things that happen. The eyes strain. So a lot of these things you get away from the screen. Actually, a lot of people sort themselves out. Eyes go very dry on the screen as well. Drops for dry eyes do make a massive difference. They can just add, make them feel more comfortable, make the vision clear as well.
They just over the counter.
Over the counter one. There's an ingredient called sodium chloride. If that's in there, then it tends to work better. But there's lots of during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of remote calls, and a lot of the time it was people who had been sat on the screen too long. A significant number of people get out more, and then within a few days they'll be much better.
Thank you.
Question I have is just okay. You mentioned, how long have they been in use for children?
So the original studies for slowing down the rate of change came out before 2010. So we're looking at least 15 years. But that's the study when the studies were released, so they were using it for maybe 4 or 5 years before then. So it's at least 20 years for that. The actual technology maybe is around 10, 20 before they've been used for adults, but they found that a side effect of using them on kids was that it slowed down the rate of change.
Okay. Now, in terms of the actual lens, has there been change within the lens structure, composition, or
design? The design of the lenses has kind of improved over time. So what it does is, so your cornea, the front surface is a particular shape, and when you put the lens on there, it flattens the shape out. And what happens is the point where it flattens, there's a curvature around the edge. Now that curvature is what slows down the rate of change. It changes it optically. So the way that curvature is, where you put the curvature, the size of the curvature, that kind of thing has improved over time with better designs. And also the kind of technology for mapping the front surface of the cornea has improved a lot. So if you get a really good kind of map of the front surface, then you can better correction.
These customized?
Yeah, they have to be customized. That's why you need to read the shape of the eye, and then you need to know within a few microns exactly how much pressure to put on.
Just to add, stellantis lenses, they're actually small holes in there, kind of when you look at it, and they give some kind of a guarantee that your number will not
increase, right?
Yeah, if it changes by a certain amount, then they'll replace the lens free of charge.
So it's dated.
Yeah, so everything you can see there's little tiny little lenslets there. So you get a clear bit in the middle, and this bit around the edge is what gives you the optical effect. And then it slows down the rate of change. Those little. This is my small. It's got a very similar kind of design.
Anybody else?
Any questions?
Is there any particular color therapy or anything which can help? Like color therapy or something?
Yes, possibly. So there's one treatment which with red light. Now the problem is that the treatment that they're doing at the moment involves using a laser. In China, they've had loads of studies and it seems to have slowed down the change, but there've been a few odd cases where some kids have had damage to their eyes because of the laser. So they're still testing out whether or not it would be worthwhile doing it as a population. There was another study that came out that said that blue light and violet light might do something as well. So what it means really be get outdoors because you get all the lights.
I think in India they say the green color is probably the best.
Okay,
color to look
it might do something. Each color does have some kind of property that it does differently, and it does differently because I do some other color therapies for different things. So there's probably some benefit to some people depending on what they are. Some different things do different colors do different things.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. So we'll take one more final question if anyone's got any. Okay, sure.
No, just a comment. Just a comment. For me, what works is, I take a look at my life.
Right. So thank you both very, very much. So Bai, thank you so much for sharing all the insights today about myopia. And I just want to say a quick apology because we had a bit of a technical difficulty at the start of this, so we weren't able to live stream. But everyone that's watching us on live stream, we have recorded the full event and it will be circulated. A link will be circulated, so you'll be able to watch it all over again. Kaya, thank you. It's not easy standing here in front of everyone and telling your story, so you did it really well. Thank you for that. And I particularly liked your rules. I think they're really good. So who was it that asked about rules? So I'm sure that will be probably helpful. I will thank Bunsi and Meho for doing all of the tech today. And of course for volunteering Kaya for being our case study. It has been a really good subject for us to explore. Next month's subject is also another good one and one that we don't really talk about in our community, but it's about eating disorders. And we're going to have a lady called Rina Gudka, MBE, who's going to be coming to talk to us about her experience and how she's overcome it to come out of this cycle of the disorder that she had. And hopefully we've got a couple of case studies as well. And that will be on the 18th of December. So we look forward to seeing all of you again and many more people. This evening, it is cold, so I thank you for making the effort and still turning up, wrapping up warm. And yes, thank you very much. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you to you, Brian, and Kaya, especially thank you to you.
हरिहंत प्रभु ना दर्शन करता ओम नमो हरिहंताणम सिद्ध प्रभु ना दर्शन करता ओम नमो सिद्धाणम आचार्यों ने वंदन करता ओम नमो आयर्याणम उपाध्याय ने वंदन करता ओम नमो उपाध्यायाणम सर्व साधु ने वंदन करता नमो लोए समसाहूणम सम्यक दर्शन मुझने मर्जो पंचन मुक्तारो सम्यक ज्ञान मुझने मर्जो